there are so many brands that exist today and really nice, high premium brands charging a premium who are making claims on their label which are not true. As a chef, you just know this is not possible. But the customer doesn't understand. And I think that's where the motivation changes. If you're product driven, even if there are areas you cannot achieve that, you will tell your customer honestly, listen, this is the best I can do.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Indianaut podcast, where we interview some of India's next best analytical and creative minds who are not only revolutionizing their own field, but at the same time transforming India's entrepreneurial ecosystem one step at a time. Our guest for the day is the co-founder and head chef of The Baker's Dozen, India's largest artisanal bakery making breads, cakes, cookies and much more using natural ingredients. Started in 2013, The Baker's Dozen is today present across 33 cities and 2,000 touchpoints in India. Our guest is a sourdough master with a diploma in international bread baking from the International Culinary Institute of New York and a diploma in patisserie from Le Cordon Bleu, Paris. We have with us Aditi Handa. Let us jump right into the conversation. Hi Aditi, I hope you're all settled in.
Hi Gautam, thank you for having me. Yes, totally settled. You put me at ease.
Excellent. Let's get started, shall we? So, Aditi, let's start at the very beginning. Okay. What inspired you to start The Baker's Dozen and how did the journey begin? I'd love to understand about your experiences from prestigious institutions that influenced the way you applied, your learnings to bread making as well as business management.
So the idea of Baker's Dozen came in the year 2012. This is a business that me and two of my co-founders, my husband Sneh and my younger brother Siddharth, the three of us started together. And in 2012, the idea was very simple that India mein achhi bread nahi milti. Let's make good bread and sell in all of India. At that point, we hadn't thought about where I would go to learn baking, but it was very clear that we want to make good, honest bread. But we did not know what good, honest bread meant. All three of us came from different backgrounds. I came from a psychology and human resource background. Sneh came from a MBA background. My younger brother Siddharth came from an engineering background. So clearly nothing to do with food, hospitality, baking, none of it. But as a team, we always felt that one of the founders needs to have the core expertise of the core of the business, which at that point was the product. And that's when I said, okay, let me identify some interesting core across the world and see where I can go. And we found a dedicated bread baking program at the French Culinary Institute in New York. Honestly, when I had to go to New York, I still wasn't thinking I will go and learn bread the way I did. It was more like a 2-month holiday in New York to be one of those well-informed managers who knows how the process works. It was really, I think it was a very, very shallow thought process, but it sounded very exciting. So I said, let me go there. And this is where I think the magic of having a good teacher, a good chef changes you. I think on day one, I went and told my chef that I have about 2 months to learn how to bake and then I have to go back to India and I have to be able to start my own business. I don't have the luxury of time to learn on someone else's dime. So can you train me the next 2 months, keeping this context in mind? And that is how we began our journey. On the 5th day, I was baking a loaf of sourdough and something happened on that day. And I think something very spiritual happened that day where I realized my whole purpose in life was to be a baker. It was not necessarily to be an entrepreneur. It was not to run a business. It was not to earn money, but it was just to bake a really good, honest, simple loaf of bread. And I think all that credit goes to my chef because these chefs who were training me, not only are they excellent in what they do, but they don't train you on recipes. They train you on techniques and they pass off their passion onto you. And I feel in any subject in life, if your teacher has been able to make you fall in love with it, there is no saying how good you're going to do. It's now totally up to you. So I did that for about 2 months in New York. I came back to India a little bit pompous and arrogant that I'm going to bake the best sourdough in all of Bombay. And when we first started out, the first batch that came out from the oven, it was a total flop show. It was like a disaster. It tasted nice, but it looked really pathetic. And then I went back to my chef now, much more humble, that what do I do? And I said, can I just import the ingredients from New York or France or some such place and, just make life easy? And he made a statement that a chef is only as good as what they can do with the local ingredients that exist. a lot of chefs have this philosophy now. It challenges them, but it also impacts how the carbon footprint of their job role works, right? You should work with local ingredients, fresher produce. The produce has traveled less, you've harmed the environment less, and so on. And then he told me that forget the recipes, go back to the techniques. Look at the amount of hydration you're putting in your bread. How long are you baking it for? How long are you proving it for, etc., etc. And the course I did was called the art of bread baking, but I think it was more like the science of bread baking, because he taught me the role of each ingredient and each variable. And then we took a very, very scientific approach that in this batch, we will change only one variable and see what the impact is. And then a second variable and see what the impact is. And I think me and my bakers, we spent about 20-25 days changing one variable at a time, baking and seeing how it goes. And it took us 25 days to be able to crack how do you make a good sourdough in Bombay conditions. That means your local flour, the humidity, the seeds, the water, all of it. And I think it's that 1 month that gave us a lot of confidence that no matter what, we will be able to crack making a good, honest product. It may not be the same standard as what it is in France, because there's certain quality ingredients that you get there which you just don't, but it is going to be better than what you get in India. And I think that's where all of us at the Bakers Dozen, which at that point meant 5 people, me and 3 bakers and 1 person in our accounts, we fell in love with wanting to make a good product. So that was the first insemination that happens, DNA of the company, that we are going to be product driven. And I think this is all thanks to what my chefs taught me. And that's how we really began the journey of Bakers Dozen.
That is really insightful, Aditi. And I think how you stress upon the fact that it should be a good, honest product compared to what is being served in the market. Definitely. We read so much about this in today's news, right? Yeah. That the bread that is being sold to the mass population in today's environment is actually not that healthy, is actually not that good for you. And your quest to make a good and clean product, that's truly inspiring, Aditi. And I think that's amazing how you are working with local products and local ingredients.
I think what also happened is, like I said, my motivation was always to make a good product and not really to the business part of it, to earn money. And I feel if your motivation, if your first love is that, there's no way you'll ever compromise. So there was a time when we used to make a bread which was 50% atta and 50% maida, and we used to say it like that. Whereas the rest of the world at that point, if they had the same ratios, would claim it to be whole wheat and mislead the customer that this is 100% atta. Instead, there are so many brands that exist today, and really nice, high premium brands charging a premium, who are making claims on their label which are not true. As a chef, you just know this is not possible. But the customer doesn't understand. And I think that's where the motivation changes. If you're product driven, even if there are areas you cannot achieve that, you will tell your customer honestly, listen, this is the best I can do. I remember we made a maida bread called chili cheese sourdough about 3 years ago. And we told our customers, this is a maida bread because the taste and texture I visualized in my mind can only come in maida. If you don't want maida, don't have it. It had some portion of atta. We could claim it as whole wheat, but it's just misleading someone for, I do not know what reason. It doesn't make sense. It's wrong to do that. And I think customers have picked up on that. They realize that we are honest about what we do.
Absolutely. I think today's customers and tomorrow's customers will be much more informed.
100%.
Will be much more educated when it comes to what they're consuming and, what is the impact of that product on their body. Yeah. So, Aditi, from that point, let's talk about today. You now have a presence in 33 cities. You're omnichannel, and we'll dig deep into the omnichannel philosophy later. But the first question I have is that how do you ensure consistent quality across all of your products? And what sets the Bakers Dozen apart from other competitors in this aspect?
I think over here, a lot of the credit I would want to give to Sneh, my co-founder. I always tell people Sneh and me are total opposites. You ask anyone in our team, and they'll say working with both of them isn't easy because Sneh kuch aur bolta hai, Aditi kuch aur bolti hai, and we just don't know what to do. And I think he and me are both very ziddy about what we want, and we both want very different things. I wanted to make a really high quality, good product. And he says, great, your product is great, but I want all of India to eat it. I don't want to be limited saying that I'm making a nice product in Bombay and that is what I'm happy with. He wanted to go large scale. And I always say when there are certain conflicts like this, how chaos theory works is either a beautiful solution comes or it just goes totally all over the place. And that is where we said, is there a way you can continue making a high quality product, but at scale? And that is the USP of Baker's Dozen, where we are still handmade. We centrally manufacture, which makes this handmade thing more consistent. We've used technology in our packaging, which increases our shelf life without having to add preservatives. So we get to make a good quality product centrally, but we get to sell pan India because that's what Sneh wanted to do. And it's just a matter of saying that I want to do this. I don't have a solution, but I'm going to dig deeper and deeper and deeper. And a lot of it, because you mentioned earlier that you're doing an MBA, you will study about food and how process manufacturing has to happen. And those are the kind of principles we incorporated in our factory, where we said if we're making a sourdough, it's the same person who will make a sourdough every day for the rest of their lives. The two things that happen, they fall in love with the product. So you don't have to wait for QC to tell them what is right or wrong. They already know. The consistency increases. So we were very clear, handmade karenge, but now how do we make processes which are more idiot proof and can last a lifetime?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Aditi, definitely, I think achieving that scale, right, having that presence in 33 cities and maintaining consistency, I think that is extremely critical.
Yeah.
And it's excellent that you've achieved that. Let's talk about your vast presence a little bit further, and let's talk about omnichannel, right? So you retail from 50 of your own stores, 600 modern and general trade stores, and are widely available on e-commerce and quick commerce platforms such as Amazon, Flipkart, Instamart, Blinkit, and more. You name a platform, you're there, right? So how has adopting an omnichannel approach benefited the Baker's Dozen, and what challenges did you face while integrating so many different channels for a seamless customer experience?
So I think what you have to keep in mind, although it sounds great, but this has happened over a 10-year period, which means we had a lot of time to experiment, try, fail, and then become better. The way we actually started Baker's Dozen commercially in 2013 was we had our own stores. That means we were pure D2C. We had a store in Prabhadevi, one in Kemp's Corner and one in Bandra in Bombay. So customer had to walk in, buy our product. During our first year, one of the customers who came from Powai said, listen, I love your product. I come to Worli once a week, so I'll end up buying it for the entire week. But is there a way you can be available where I locally buy my groceries? At that point, a lot of groceries meant modern trade and general trade because e-commerce in 2014-15 was only truly big basket. And we said, okay, this makes a lot of sense. And we started shifting omni-channel. That point, this word wasn't really a fad that it is today. But it was a very simple premise that we are closer to what a grocery basket is. And hence, we should be available where the customer wants us to be available. So whether this is a grocery store he has in his complex, or this is a modern trade store, like let's say a food or a nature's basket, whatever is convenient to them. And that is how we went omni-channel at that point to modern trade and big basket. A quick commerce truly happened for us during the pandemic period because first of all, quick commerce came up during the pandemic period. But by then we had moved our manufacturing, which was initially in Bombay, to Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad is where we had the modified packaging and the big factory and central manufacturing. And all vendors said, can we get one supplier for Pan India? It makes their life easier. Listing the product, having it available, the marketing spends, the supply chain, the operations of it. And we were able to provide that. So to Blinkit, we said, listen, if you want a product in Chandigarh, we'll give you. If you want the same product in Hyderabad, we'll give you. If you want the same product in Bangalore, we'll give you. And I think when we started quick commerce and during the pandemic, we actually shifted from a product company more to a supply chain company because that became such a core strength. Because you have to make something every 2 days, send it out to these warehouses. It has to be shipped to the market within 8 hours of reaching. And I mean, I love operations, and I think operations is a lot of breaking the big problem into small pieces and using a lot of common sense. And if you're able to do that, it's not as difficult to crack.
Definitely. And Aditi, delving deeper into this, I'd love to understand the split that you see in a percentage basis on traction that you get across these channels, be it quick commerce, e-commerce, or your modern trade and general trade store. What are the channels that you see are, maximum where you get engagement from?
So in terms of revenue, our revenue will be about 60% is still online. Online could be e-commerce, quick commerce, Swiggy, Zomato, all of it. 20% is trade stores, which is either a Nature's Basket, a Modern Bazaar, high-end GT. And then 20% is our own stores, whether these are walk-in customers, WhatsApp, and so on. But having said that, so this is the current split. Having said that, our next year concentration is increasing the trade footfall significantly, because we think trade is, we don't think, everybody knows trade is huge in India. And I also think trade is the most sustainable way for a business to go forward. So our major focus for the next 1 year, 18 months is to concentrate on a bigger presence in trade.
Understood. So let's double down on trade only. Can you share some success stories or challenges you faced while penetrating the traditional general trade markets of India?
Trade now is a bit ad hoc in the sense they will not be able to keep all your products. They shouldn't keep all your products. So it's very important to identify that there is a Nature's Basket in Bandra which says this particular SKU mix, but there's a Nature's Basket, let's say in Bangalore, which is selling a different product mix altogether. So you shouldn't generalize it and club it. So even when you're listing a product or the orders that you're sending them, it has to change store-wise. And you get this data from them. They give you traction, kya bik raha, kya nahi bik raha. Marketing strategies change a lot. There are certain trade stores where you want to buy visibility, but there are certain trade stores where you find that listen, visibility is not as big a problem, but I need more sampling to happen. Trade with sampling works great, especially if you are a food product and you're good quality product. You just know if they're going to taste, they're going to buy. And a huge amount of customer acquisition for us in trade has happened just out of pure sampling. And sampling, not giving away freebies for them to taste at home. Sampling is a promoter standing with a nice tray, food, whether it's a cake or a cookie there, making the customer taste a small piece. If they like it, make them buy that. It's just little things. Also, I think where trade is wonderful is it's really one of the only few places you get to physically talk to a customer. So I feel every brand is relying a lot on this physical experience to understand what's happening in the customer's mind. And they will give you such wonderful feedback saying, like, there's a coffee cake on our menu and it was doing okay. And then when we were sampling this in a store in Bangalore, and everybody loved it there. And one of the customers told us that, listen, Bangaloreites love coffee. But if you try to sell coffee to a place in like Bombay who's like a tea janta, it just doesn't make sense, right? It's so common sense in marketing. I don't know why we didn't think of this. But I feel trade is where you speak to a customer. Where you speak to a customer, that's where most of your problem answers lie. And one must always continue doing that.
Awesome. And Aditi, just, what do you see is your trade vision over the next 5 years?
Now what we're doing with trade is we've launched a totally new range of cookies and toasts and rusks, which are very trade specific. That means the customer who walks into a trade store, what is the kind of product they are looking at? We don't intend to be very big on the bread menu there. We intend to be very big on the cake, cookies and rusks menu there. And we think, first of all, it's a longer shelf life product, so far easier operations than the bread menu. Second is these products have a natural traction in trade stores. So I think because the product mix will change, the type of customer will change a lot too. And I think that's going to be very, very exciting.
Awesome.
We actually hope for these categories to be a bigger part of the P&L than the bread, which is why we initially started.
Right. Aditi, on this note, I'd like to mention that firstly, I'm doing this podcast is actually deeply personal to me as well because I'm a huge admirer of your brand. So it started off with the bread. It started off with the whole wheat bread and has now moved to, having your sourdough pizza base or having the garlic tostinis, taste profile as well as the quality, right? It's just always really a feel good moment having it, knowing that, it's a guilt-free product essentially compared to what is being sold in the market. So very true. I just wanted to give you that shout out. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's really, really sweet.
Awesome. Okay. So Aditi, let's talk about something that has become a critical part of your overall strategy, that is sustainability. So sustainability is an important part of your vision. Can you elaborate on the specific steps you're taking to reduce the carbon and plastic footprint of the baker's dozen?
So on this topic of sustainability, earlier on I told you how my chef told me that always work with whatever is locally available. Now, I think at that context, what he was trying to explain is that you use things locally. It's just a better business sense. But I think somewhere what he was also saying, which I think took me much longer to realize, is he was talking about sustainability. Now, that means it went into our mindset, it went into our DNA, but we did not really know the magnitude of it. In 2019, when we said we wanted to have a central manufacturing, so we were pre 2019, we had a small kitchen in Bombay. We used to bake breads in it every day, pack it in either a parchment paper or a plastic bag, and that's how it would go to the market, which would have like a 2-3 day shelf life. When we moved to Gujarat, we used a heavier plastic, a far thicker, and our entire packaging became more plastic heavy. But it meant no preservatives, better quality product, better supply chain, etc., etc. And I remember a customer writing to me saying that, Aditi, I'm very disappointed in you. As the world is going away from plastic, you are embracing plastic. She was not wrong. She was totally right. And I was very happy that, when a customer writes to you, I know it's a complaint, but when they say they're disappointed in you, that means you must have meant enough to them for them to be disappointed in you. And this is something that always stayed on my mind. And we said, okay, by using this packaging, we have brought down our food waste. So we are doing better in terms of giving back to the environment, but it is not enough. And that time we didn't know better. So we said, let us start doing something called waste segregation. So at the factory, what we did was we made different types of dustbins. This is food, this is paper, this is plastic, very common practices these days. And we started getting all our staff to segregate waste like that. So every time we're dumping something, segregate it. And we felt really good about it. We're like, oh, great, we're giving back to the environment. It took us a few months to realize that the person who was collecting the garbage was mixing it all up and then dumping it in the dump yard, and really no good was coming from that. And I think this pinched us. Then a few years went by and it kept pinching us. Then when I was doing my business course from IIM Bangalore, I studied a subject in which we did a case study on Nike. And Nike at one point did a very interesting thing. This is when the brand was already quite well established. They did a press release saying that we currently are not sustainable in terms of environmental sustainability. We don't really have a program for that, but it is something we intend to build. And we're humble enough to know what we're doing is wrong, but we're also humble enough to say that we're going to try fixing it. I love that sentence because, a lot of brands these days want to make tall promises and everything's about these promises, but nobody's out there saying that, listen, I know where I go wrong. And it's good to admit, because if I don't admit, how will I change? And that's when I said, okay, I think Bakers needs more personality to the brand. We make a great product. People love our breads. It's available everywhere. These are still the business aspects of a business. How do you bring personality to a brand? And to me, this had to come from the sustainability initiative. So last year, what we did was we got an agency to first identify what is the carbon footprint Bakers doesn't has. That means this carbon footprint could happen because we're a manufacturing unit because of the ingredients we source. Now, wheat has a higher carbon footprint. Almond flakes has a slightly lower carbon footprint. So what is the carbon footprint as a company? This could be because of production. This could be because of supply chain. This could be because of packaging. This also includes the carbon footprint employees create to go to the place of work. So if there's an employee in Bangalore who takes the public transport, his carbon footprint is lower compared to another employee who goes in a private car. So we calculated all of that and we identified this is the carbon footprint of Bakers Dozen for one financial year. And then we said, okay, what is it that we are willing to offset this year? What is the agenda? And the two things we identified was we wanted to be plastic neutral, which means we will recycle as much plastic as we consume. Second was the green deliveries. That means the entire logistics carbon footprint, the trucks that go from the factory to the warehouses, the tempos that go from the warehouses to the vendor, whether it's an Instamart or a Blinkit or our own store, the entire carbon footprint of delivery, we want to offset. The reason we chose this is they are the easiest to explain to a customer. They are also the basic hygiene principles a company must have. Where we went one step extra is, this entire sustainability project, there's a lot of gray areas because it's still really new to the world. So there are gray areas like how much plastic do you recycle? As much as what you sell. But since we're a manufacturing, we say not as much as what we sell, but as much as what we consume. So if I have stock kept at my factory, kept at my warehouses, or there was plastic I wasted because a batch got wasted, we have to count all of that. This will never get reflected in sales, but it is plastic consumption because I have taken the plastic from Mother Earth. So we said, whatever we do, even if it's small, we are going to do it bloody goddamn right, because you cannot take up a noble project like this and then look for shortcuts. During the finance team, as usual, comes up saying, where are you going to get the funds from? Because my P&L does not allow you to, generate more money, and which part of my P&L am I offsetting this? And, those sort of extremely critical but boring questions. Now, what do you do when you're really passionate about it? What we had done is we had identified a 3-member team at our HO. These were totally people who volunteered. I told them I want to take up a project called sustainability. Who would like to contribute? And 2-3 volunteers said we would like to contribute. We said we will take it easy. We will not make it a very aggressive thing. Every week, 2, 3, 4 hours each of us will put, and let the project go at its own pace so that you don't realize the pinch of it. It doesn't take away from your regular work, but it happens. Now, these people started talking to their other colleagues. They went to the factory. They would say, hum aisa kar rahe hain. What do you think? What can you contribute? And someone from our dispatch team said, we use cartons to transport goods from the factory to different warehouses. If I can just do something called just-in-time carton ordering, I have a feeling I will be able to save some money. Just by doing something called just-in-time carton ordering, this is the most idiotic thing to do, and I don't know why we had not done. We were able to generate 70% of the funds we would need for the sustainability. So not only was the finance team happy that, oh, great, you brought on my gross margin, you guys are amazing, but we were able to generate this money from the current pool. Then, because this went further into the system, people from different departments came up with very unique ideas. And where I thought this was very interesting, a lot of people think sustainability, giving back to environment, means an additional cost, which means I must earn enough to want to give back. We actually, by doing this, not only saved I think we've saved the company about by 80 lakh rupees just by these cost-cutting projects, and about 30% of that is going towards sustainability. So in spite of giving to sustainability, the company is going to make money because someone said, कि यार पैसे ढूंढते हैं कहीं पर. And I think when this viral effect happens in the company where people say, listen, let's start carpooling and let's put the ACs off and let's reduce our supply chain carbon footprint, or let's recycle the product that we are using, etc., etc., etc. You just know this energy of wanting to give back to the environment is going further. What we're now going to be doing later this month is a campaign with our customers. So the way we're doing is all the plastic that we will recycle, we were teamed up with a company called Recycle who will do that. So we will tell them that ye grade ka plastic hai, you must recycle this much. We generate food waste because we're a perishable product. That means there's product that goes in the market. If the bread does not sell in time, it comes back. So we've teamed up with the Waste Link who collects all this food waste and makes it into animal fodder. Third, what we've done is we've teamed up with Climbs. Any carbon footprint that is not happening either through recycle or wasting, that surplus goes to Climbs towards our green deliveries. And they are doing something very cool. We are putting a QR code in our packaging. Now we've told Climbs कि आप इतना ton carbon आप हर महीने offset करो. What they are saying is, can the customer scan the QR code and identify a project of their choice? So if they believe in afforestation, can they do that? If they say, listen, I want a project which is Telangana based because I am Telangana based, whatever their choices may be. And so I think this is going to be a great campaign because we want the customers getting involved, saying your product came to you, you are a loaf of bread, the carbon footprint that is there, we will pay to offset, but can you make the choice? And if you make the choice, they are that much more involved in it. I think that is going to be fabulous once the consumer gets involved, because that's where the real fun lies, right?
Absolutely. And I think, Aditi, what's incredible about your entire sustainability approach is that you firstly took concrete steps in your supply chain process as well as in your actual business decisions were firstly taken before the, token approaches were taken that are usually taken by other businesses. And I think that is where, you walk the talk essentially, that you're doing the actual steps that are required to become a sustainable business rather than just talking about it or, using it as a social media gimmick. So that's amazing.
And I think that's always been the DNA of Baker's Dozen, which is why I say whatever we do, we are honest in it. If we feel that we are not being able to give the customer exactly what they want, we tell them that this is not exactly what you want. You just be honest. And I feel a lot of people now value their honesty.
Definitely, definitely. I think additionally, I think your MBA has had a profound impact on you, because I think all of this stemmed out of a subject
That
that's
is true.
so
By the way,
that
that is a subject I never wanted to do. It was a compulsory module, so I had to do it. And I used to at times doze off in the class because a lot of this MBA also happened virtually. So it was on Zoom, and I would just want to doze off. But you just never know who impacts you when and what happens. And
definitely,
which is why I say, if you're
definitely.
greedy for knowledge, now you just keep registering this in your mind, and someday something gets triggered.
Definitely. I think I'm gonna make a habit of dozing off less in class from now on.
So one of the things, one of the people who's played a very important role in the sustainability project that we've taken up is Kaval, who's the founding partner in Fireside and who's always mentored Sneh and me, pre them investing in us and post them investing in us. Now, when we sit down with him, let's say once a quarter, there are obviously certain strategic questions. He will ask business, P&L, marketing strategy, so on, so on. But one of the questions he always asks is, Aditi, tum apna plastic ka kya kar rahe ho? Are you reducing it? Are you making your packing better, more sustainable? And if you're not, what are you doing to give back to the environment? And I feel when you have not an investor, but someone like a mentor like Kaval who's making you think that P&L is great. P&L is common sense. You have to do it. It's not negotiable. But what beyond that? And how are we giving back to the world? I think that just ensures that alignment exists between the investor and the entrepreneur, that we are all going towards the same aim. And I think there's a lot of value in doing good. Like I told you earlier, when you do good like this, the company benefits, the employees benefit, and there's a certain DNA now you've created in the company that हम जो करेंगे जितना करेंगे हम अच्छा करेंगे. And we will not take away from not only the world, but even people if we are not able to give back. And I think this is all thanks to Kaval and his very gentle probing in every meeting. Ke, ab kya?
That is incredible, Aditi, and it's generally so refreshing to hear a founder so focused on sustainability, right?
Yeah.
And taking such concrete steps towards it. It makes me really excited about the future, and it really makes me excited about the upcoming sustainability projects coming out in the
Yeah.
Baker's Dozen.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. Excellent. So, Aditi, you've been in this business for more than a decade now, right?
Yes.
So, how has the bakery and bread making landscape in India changed in front of you, evolved in front of you since 2013? And where do you see this industry heading?
I think the biggest change that has happened is the products that we're making at the baker's dozen, whether it's a bread or a tea cake or cookies or the new launch that we've done of rusks and toast, these are everyday consumables. You are buying and eating them without even thinking about it. But these are also the products that have been strongest associated with the junk food, unhygienic practices, not good quality ingredients, etc. And I think what's happened is we were trying to build this narrative that can the everyday mundane bakery product that you consume, can this be made in a hygienic way? Can the quality of ingredients be really good quality? Because this is what's going in your body every day, right? And can this be done with natural ingredients? So if you're making a banana bread, we actually put fresh bananas. It's not an essence. And just make a good quality product the way you would have made at home. And what's happened in the past few years, especially, and I think a lot of this is during and post-pandemic, the customers are far more knowledgeable and aware of what they want to consume. Not only do they know what they want, but they're willing to question companies that why can you not make a product in this particular style because it is better for me. And I think when this questioning happens from the consumer's end, first of all, it's amazing that you want to make a product because the customer wants it. So you don't have to create that traction that already exists. Secondly, what happens is a consumer is knowledgeable enough now. So when you develop a product, there's already a product market fit that exists. Because a customer wanted it, you're developing it, you're giving it to them. And you're able to break these myths that bakery is junk. Bakery is not junk. You just need to eat a better version of that exist. Whether it was a cake or a cookie or a rusk, doesn't matter. But can it not have trans fats? Can it not have maida? Can it not have preservatives? If it is garlic, can it really have roasted fresh garlic and not just a seasoning? So on, so on. And I think that's made our life much easier because consumers are more aware. They are questioning the food that they are eating. And they're putting pressure on companies like us saying, perform better, we need better. And I think that's always great fun to do it like that.
Awesome, awesome. And Aditi, building on top of this, what are some upcoming product lines or innovations fans of the bakers doesn't look can look forward to?
So two things that we're doing. We have a range of cookies which we launched about 4 years ago, and this is doing extremely well for us. Now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to expand that range. We're trying to bring the price point lower, not by reducing the quality of ingredients, but by reducing the paraphernalia that existed around it, and so that it's just more accessible. A customer is more willing to pay for something that costs 60 rupees compared to what it costs 80 rupees, especially if you're buying it for the first time. We have launched a range of rusks and toast. So this is like your jeera flavor, your butter garlic flavor, your peri peri flavor, and these are smaller disc size, not the big ones. So that means imagine you and me are sitting and you were a bit hungry, you can pick a small piece and just have it as a mid-meal. Or these become great bases for you to make a dish out of, like whether it's a bruschetta or serving it with a dip and so on. So I think the cookies and the rusks that we are as categories launching are going to be very, very big for us.
That's incredible, Aditi. I really look forward to those categories being launched and consuming them. Perhaps even as a meal replacement, because that's how lifestyle of an MBA student goes.
Very, very true.
Awesome. And Aditi, I want to switch gears now and talk about your partnership with your husband, S3E10. How does it actually work, working with your husband, and how does that dynamic play into your business?
I think the dynamic as a husband, wife, and as co-founders in the past 10, 12 years has changed drastically. When we first started working together, we never thought what we were doing. We just said, listen, I want to start a business. You want to start a business? Chalo, saath mein shuru karte hain. And it will be nice and fun. We didn't realize the complexities it brings. Having said that, I think it's wonderful where, like I told you earlier, we're not the same. We are drastically opposite people. We probably question each other more than anyone else. But I think where we have the maturity to know that questioning is good for both of us as individuals and for the company. One of the biggest things an entrepreneur doesn't have is mentoring. You have to be your own critique. And there are times when it's nice if your co-founder can put on that hat and say, listen, I think you could have done this better, or the other way around. Where I think the challenge comes is where do you draw the line between a husband and wife, and where do you draw the line between co-founders? We very shamelessly say we've tried drawing the line, it hasn't worked. So we've said this line doesn't exist. And we've merged it, and it's a khichdi, and this khichdi works for us. I think the only place where we really draw a line is we have twin boys who are 6 years old now. And we say when it's kids' time. So every evening, let's say 6:30 onwards, it's kids' time. Or S3E10 drops the kids at about 6:30 in the morning, or Sundays or the weekend when you get this. There's a line over here that this is our time with the children, and nobody's going to come in the middle of it. I think that's the only place where it's worked out. The rest of it, mixing it up works out better for us.
That's great.
But it's great fun. I think it's, in S3E10, I've truly found a life partner because we have the same goal when it comes to the company. We have the same goal when it comes to our relationship. We have the same goal when it comes to our family. So it's truly a life partnership, I feel.
Absolutely. I think that's incredible. And I think that is something many people of our country would actually strive for, that, that is the kind of partnership they would want.
But it doesn't come easily. So
people
should know that a lot of jhagras happen behind this happy face. Not just behind, sometimes in front also.
I think it'll definitely be interesting being a Bakers as an employee, seeing all of that unfold.
I think there'll be sort of memes about S3E10 and me in the lunchroom when we're not there.
I think, absolutely. So, Aditi, this is my last question for you, and this is something we ask every entrepreneur who comes on this platform. What advice do you have for other aspiring entrepreneurs, or as we like to call them, Indianauts?
I think so. There are two bits to this. I think whenever you start a business, please don't think how you're going to exit. This is something a lot of the society makes you think. Either your fellow friends who are entrepreneurs make you think, or your VCs make you think, what's the exit? Honestly, the way I look at it, an entrepreneur doesn't have an exit. We've created a business we want to dedicate a lifetime to. We want to impact India and maybe the globe with it, because we believe the power of our product. So whereas investors may come and go, the entrepreneur, according to me, has to stay. Because how can the vision be that I will do something 5 years and leave? It's not a job, right? It's your legacy, what you're going to leave behind. So don't think of exits. Second is, whenever you're faced with a problem, and you're going to be faced with a dozen a day, answer an entrepreneur can never give is, I don't know what to do, or let us not do it. There's always an answer. You just need to dig deeper and deeper and deeper. The other day, someone came to me and said, listen, this is the best I can do, and it was not good enough. And the way I look at it is, if they can't do good enough, doesn't matter. I have to dig the rest of the stretch and ensure it is good enough. So never, never, never give up. Every time you think of giving up, just say a little bit more and hang on, and you will find the answer. If that's very clear, then success is just, it's going to happen today, tomorrow, 3 years down the line, God knows when, but it will happen.
Awesome. And I think, Aditi, this entire episode has been a testament to your resilience and your patience in what it takes to build a business. You've been doing this for a decade now. The Baker's Dozen has, year on year achieved extremely incredible growth. You've seen so many events take place and unfold in front of you. You've seen the online boom. You've seen the entire pandemic episode. You've seen all of that, and you've adapted your business. So I think yours is a story of resilience. It's a story of patience and patiently building a business for a lifetime, essentially.
I don't know whether we were patiently building. We had no other option but to do it this way. A lot of our decisions are like, और option नहीं थे तो ये करना ही पड़ता है यार, और क्या करोगे?
So it's like history is written by the winners now. So now you can always say these are all strategic decisions we made.
True. So this is the jargon you are learning in your MBA.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Aditi, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Gautam.
Absolutely. We wish you and Baker's Dozen the very best for the future.
Thank you so much, Gautam. It was a swell time talking to you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this episode. The Indianaut podcast is available on YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook to receive all updates on the upcoming episodes. We'll see you in the next one.